This video is going to be about a Warlock build that I've been putting together, and I'm really excited to bring to people. This build has been around for a long time. It involves a stag using arc buddies and the arc subclass, and I think it's going to still be strong even into Lightfall, even though we don't know what those builds are like. We're going to talk about the fragments and the aspects and everything else. So I'm running Chaos Reach, I'm running Healing Rift, running Lightning Grenades, we're doing Arc Souls of course with Lightning Surge, we're doing Spark of Volts, we have Spark of Resistance, Spark of Shock, Spark of Magnitude. I like to run this with a pulse rifle, sometimes a 120 hand cannon, which you might see in the gameplay, and a shotgun or a fusion rifle, depending on the map and depending on what you're comfortable with. With regard to the build and the stat splits, I would definitely recommend going for 100 recovery. If you can only fit one 100 stat on the build like I do on this one, I would go for recovery. That's going to be really the linchpin of your whole build. That's going to allow you to take advantage of the damage reduction actively in your rifts when you're alive. It's going to give you arc buddies and give your teammates arc buddies as well. And then it'll also charge, depending on the mods that you put on, like here, it can charge your melee or your grenades or something else. I'd recommend running the Lightning Surge. That'll give you an offensive ability that you can use even if you are playing a little bit more passive during the game. It's good to be able to spring into action and use that ability when you need to. I would also prioritize Intellect as much as you can. Again, in Trials, if you don't play a lot of Trials, you're probably not going to be getting a ton of kills, and you may be dying more often than normal and other people, and that's okay. So I would just play into that and really try to get your super by upping your Intellect. You can see here I went for 70. I wanted to make sure my Resilience was 50. I'd say 50 is the minimum I would normally run for survivability, 60 being ideal. 100 recuv, 80 discipline for the grenade, which I really wanted, and then I upped the intellect, and I got strength up to 60. Overall, this is a pretty good stat split for a single 100 build. Important to frame how the Trials experience works for people who go in who don't play Crucible very often. So many, let's say PvE focused players, they might get really nervous or frustrated, even angry and disappointed when they go into play Trials, and this is totally normal. I go through all the same things myself, and I play Crucible several days a week at a minimum. It also, many people think if they're getting a carry, for example, or a Sherpa, if they're getting help, that this reflects badly on them in some way, and I just want to say that this really is sort of a negative connotation. Some people definitely do bring out the negative side, but it's the same thing really as doing a Sherpa in a raid or a dungeon or a Grandmaster. At the end of the day, some of us have skills that allow us to play in some areas of the game better than others, or, you know, and a lot of us like helping as well. The thing about this build, what makes it really so strong, is that you don't have to be a super cracked player, you don't have to have a great primary shot, you don't even have to be very mobile or moving around the map. You're able to help your team just by playing into your strengths and bolstering your weaknesses. So some of the weaknesses might be that you're not super confident in a primary fight. With arc buddies, they're going to supplement your damage, and they're going to even help you get damage on people whom you wouldn't normally have got shots on, and that'll help your teammates. I recommend just looking at your teammates and letting the arc buddies do a lot of that damage. You can have your teammates back, and you can sit in the rift and get damage resistance, and get more arc buddies, and be able to provide a lot of help there. You can hold a lane, you can hold a res, or the zone, like the cap zone in this instance. On top of all of those benefits, you also drop a damage reducing rift when you die, which is huge. So again, if we think back about expectations and sort of where our strengths and our weaknesses are, if we know that we may be dying more than average, and we know that we may die in some not great spots, what might leave our teammates a little bit exposed, having that rift that drops right on our res allows teammates to play in and around that rift, get their health back, get more damage reduction, get your res possibly, and it really makes for a great situation. So again, if you know that you may be dying more often than average, I'd say build into that with your stats, bolster your intellect and your super to account for your downtime, and then also use something like the stag that gives a nice passive buff to your teammates when you die. That's all I have for now. I really appreciate you watching. Please drop a comment if you've used this build or if you want to use this build. I know I've recommended this to some friends and they've had some moderate success with it recently. Please also drop a like and give me a subscribe if you want to see some more videos. I plan on covering, of course, the new content in Lightfall, and I'll have a couple more videos out before then.